Hi, this video is a response to a friend of mine who is getting very frustrated because I won't say that Kermit Gosnell is evil. And she says, well, look, you getting on all these horrible things you did. You're getting on him all the time for being evil, being evil, being evil. And I'm trying to explain that there's a difference between doing evil things and having evil intent. So I'm going to try to clarify that. Now, first of all of us do evil things. I mean, if you don't think you've ever done an evil thing, then you probably need to do a little bit of soul searching, because I think, it's like the Bible says, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We've all done it. So, the fact that the evil things Gosnell has done are much more spectacular than any of the evil things I've done doesn't give me a place to judge, where he is on the scale of evilness, because I can't understand what his thoughts were going into it. Now, what he did, the things he did, he killed babies, he did abortions on women who had changed their minds, or sometimes on teenage girls who were brought in against their will. He had staff lying to people. He committed malpractice that got 2 women killed. This guy's list of horrific, inexcusable things he did is very, very long. I mean, that grand jury report was 300 pages, and it only skimmed the surface of the horrible things he did. Now, it becomes, though, what was his intent when he was doing these things? And he talks about, if you read interviews with him or watch interviews, there's some on YouTube. He certainly was not shy about speaking out. He seemed to really view himself as this crusader for women's rights. He compared himself to George Tiller, who is considered a pro-choice hero, despite the fact that, well, the pro-choice people really don't know the stuff that Tiller was doing that I would classify as pretty damn disgusting. Tiller's an entirely... But I don't think, by and large, Tiller was evil. He did horrific, horrible, just terrible things. But, did he have an appreciation of the evilness of what he was doing? So let's get back to Gosnell. Gosnell talks about, and people who knew Gosnell were very shocked when they found out about the clinic. They just were completely bewildered about how this man who was so kind and so sweet and so helpful, how could he be doing these horrible things? And there is a lot of evidence that once you got him outside of that clinic, once you got him away from the drugs he was dealing and the abortions, he seemed like he was really a great guy. And that's something you don't like to say when you're appalled by everything he's really publicly known for. But, the people who were closest to him say that they can... It's one of those things like, how could he possibly have done all this? That's not things that the man I knew would have done. So I really think that Gosnell's telling the truth when he says he got into abortion because he believed he was helping women. But there's also, I think, this metaphysical truth that evil is always the master. It's never the slave. And once you start doing something that really isn't a good thing in and of itself, but you feel like the ends justify the means, that you start to let something bad in. That, it's okay if I embezzle this money because I'm going to use it to do good things. Or it's okay if I embezzle this money because I'm embezzling it from a slime bucket. Just the fact that you're having to make an excuse for that embezzling, I think that you're opening yourself up for evil to get a hold of you and really start messing with your head. And, I've talked before about different people who did abortions or were active in abortion and what they thought while they were doing it. And, the one example I get to is Carol Everett, is because I've met her, I've talked to her, I've read her book. I've seen interviews that she's done. And, there was really, if you listen to her, there was this dichotomy going on while she was running her abortion clinics. That, she was getting sucked into being greedy, into doing later and later abortions, into doing things that she deliberately knew would lead to teenage girls getting pregnant so she could sell them more abortions. And at the same time, when she was being really disturbed by what she was doing, like when she was, examining the products of conception, making sure they had 2 arms, 2 legs, all of that, she talked about how seeing the little intestines of these aborted babies really disturbed her, because to her that said that this baby was meant to live. And she says that that would just be a pain in her soul, and she would start to question, am I doing the right thing? And then she'd go, I'm helping women have safe, legal abortions. And so she had that to fall back on any time that she felt what she was doing was wrong. So I think while she was there, part of her was justifying everything she was doing. Well, I have to keep this clinic open so I can help women have safe, legal abortions. And frankly, honestly, the deliberately prescribing low-dose birth control pills so these girls could get pregnant, to me, that is more the key evil thing she was doing, not actually selling the abortions. Because once the woman was pregnant, she could get into this, well, I'm helping her have a safe, legal abortion. And that initial sense of doing something positive could kick in. It's the getting them set up to get pregnant in the first place. And, I would really have to talk to Carol, and I might actually get hold of Carol and talk to her about, how did you sync this up in your mind? You knew that you were endangering women's lives. I mean, think about the death of Sherry Graham. Just, you look at all this, but you also look at the time, she kept a Bible in her desk. She would insist that she was doing God's work. And I think what happens is that people get sucked into this and they aren't capable of seeing the evil character of what they're doing. So I think that was the case for Gosnell for a huge part of what he did. I don't think he got up in the morning and was like, oh, I get to go kill me some babies. Woohoo! And I don't think even when he was, joking, this baby's big enough to walk me to the bus stop and, killing it, that it was some kind of Ted Bundy power trip where he was just really getting off on the fact that he was killing this baby. I think once he got into that mindset of abortion being a noble thing to do, then once you're in that mindset of abortion is this noble calling, and this is not some weird flaky mindset, okay? This is a very well-grounded. There are documentaries done about how wonderful and selfless and brave doctors are when they make abortion the whole point of their lives. That, doing this is this good thing. And once you get into that mindset of abortion being a noble thing, it's really, really probably very easy to gloss over. Because if you can gloss over the evil as you're pulling arms and legs out, as you're watching that heartbeat. And Leroy Carhart said, he knew the babies were alive when he was doing the D&E second trimester abortions, because he said, he'd pull off a leg and he could still see on the ultrasound the heart was going. He'd pull off another leg and he could look on the ultrasound and the heart was still going. And, he'll still reach in and pull more out. And eventually, the baby dies of dismemberment. And, I can still get that Carhart, while he's doing that, is in this mindset of, well, it's distasteful, but abortion itself is such a noble thing that it justifies what I'm doing to this baby as I'm watching its heart stop. So, that's the question of people doing horrible, terrible things versus the person going in with evil intent. And I think that for the most part, even Gosnell wasn't waking up in the morning and going into that building with evil intent. And I think the people covering up for him, while what they're doing is absolutely appalling, the people at the state who were turning a blind eye, the people at the National Abortion Federation who were turning a blind eye, the people at these clinics that were referring to him, They were so blinded by this idea that abortion is this noble thing that you do to help women that all of the associated evil just becomes invisible. Because as soon as you start seeing that, you have to start with the introspection and asking yourself, is this really a noble thing? Or am I, causing these teenage girls to get pregnant just so I can sell them an abortion? And that's too painful to look at. So I can't make a judgment call. I can say I don't think any of them ever go into it because they get off on killing babies. I really think they get into this mindset of abortion being this noble thing that helps women, and that puts these blinders on them that makes the evil of what they're doing invisible to them. And that's how they can do evil things without me saying they're horrible, evil people.